If we always hold on to negative thought patterns, we're going to continue to live in unending stress. Our entire lives and in the health of our body are all due to our thought patterns. So today I'm going to show you how to release those negative thought patterns so you can start living a life that is so much more peaceful and enjoyable. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Michaela and I help people on their spiritual awakening journey. If you clicked on my video, then there's some aspect of your life that's out of balance that's causing you stress. Stress comes in so many forms because we live in a life that is absolutely crazy. We have, the car payments and the house payments and the electricity bills and so much demanding of our time. Then we have kids and jobs that are really, really wearing on us. And it feels almost impossible to break away from these kind of expectations that are put on us or these responsibilities. And so I kind of want to implement something for you guys that is able to be used all throughout the day. Because really, you can have a meditation practice, and yes, those are wonderful things. And at the same time, it's really difficult to you might have your meditation practice in the morning and that starts you off on the right foot. But then as the day goes on, how do you handle life after that, And so the big thing that I wanted to talk to you guys today about is expectations. I know when I'm trying to create something in my life, or even if I'm not, and I'm just living by the bare minimum, I put so many expectations on myself. And expectations are just a way for us to set up anxiety and stress. So if you're trying to build something in your life, say your career, or you're trying to be a good mom, you have this projected idea that you have to be a certain type of way. Okay, well, if I want to get that raise at the for my job, then I have to really be on time every day. I need to go above and beyond. I need to stay later. All these ways that we put ourselves into these expectations instead of being here in the present moment. I always say in all my other videos, awareness is key. And so when we start to really become aware of all these expectations, we start to realize just how much we put on ourselves instead of being content with where we are. The underlying thing with fear is you're afraid to lose something that you already have, or you're afraid you're not going to get something that you are desiring. Desires and wants are completely normal and human, but at the same time, it's super important to really be realistic with yourself and practice that gratitude of just being in the present moment. When we get into the flow of work and things are just going well, how do you get into that a little bit more? It's typically because you're not thinking about what your husband said earlier or what your kids are going to be doing after school. They have soccer practice or whatever it is. Usually when you get into the flow of your work, it's because you're present with exactly what you're doing in that moment. And so being present 24/7 might not be very realistic, but when you do notice your mind starting to wander to what you got to do after work, you bring it back and you continue to bring it back to exactly what you're doing here in the present moment. And when we start to stay in this present moment, we're able to realize oh my gosh, I have this expectation and that expectation, and this is causing me so much stress. So an example from my life is I am not very nice when it comes to work. I think I probably have some form of ADHD. I don't recognize it as that. I just, I get really frustrated when people try to come and approach me because I'm so narrow-minded. I learned this habit when I was younger and I couldn't focus for the life of me. If somebody else is talking nearby or whatever is going on, my attention automatically goes like that. So in a way, as a kid, I developed this mechanism to get really angry if somebody tried to come up and distract me because I wanted to focus on my school. I was a good student, in my earlier years. And so now, fast forward to my life today, it's if my daughter kind of interrupts me or if my boyfriend comes home, I get really frustrated that they're trying to come and ask me for something, or maybe they need my help or just want, so a little bit of love, a little bit of break. And so I realized that I am putting so much expectation into doing this work that I set a goal for today and it's gonna get done. And if I don't get it done, then what does that say about me? But what I've had to really implement is realizing like, okay, I'm not mad at my boyfriend or my daughter or the dog. I'm mad at not being able to be in control. I'm afraid I'm going to lose something. I'm afraid that, or I'm not going to get what I want, the success out of putting my time and energy into my work. And although it's really difficult to let go of that expectation of, I need to get this work done, when I allow myself that space to, okay, I'm going to do the best that I can today, but if I can't finish it, that's okay. And really getting into the flow. See, the thing about presence is when you are completely immersed in what you're doing at the moment, you're actually a lot more efficient than when you are trying to set up these expectations and saying like how life is going to be different when all these things. Well, you're actually taking away from the work that you're doing right now. So the biggest thing about stress is our expectations. If we can learn to identify and to really try our best to just notice it and then just kind of let it go and bring ourselves back into the present moment, you're going to notice a lot of stress starting to leave your body. Our brains take in so much information in a day. When we're driving in our car and we start to pass by the trees and the other cars, we kind of notice it and we start to let it go because our brains can only hold on to so much. And to us, it's a little bit irrelevant. We might notice a blue car pass by, then the red one, and then a black truck. And, we'll see the trees and that's that. We experienced it, we saw it, and then we let it go. What happens though is, say we see that black truck and it really triggered us because that's what our ex used to drive and my ex cheated on me. And so now I have all these horrible emotions associated with that kind of truck because my ex used to drive that truck. That's when we start to hone in and start to focus on something that is absolutely negative. So how we counteract that, right? So this is just a silly example, but applying it into your own life, getting into the observer and really starting to notice like, oh, that's not even his truck, right? First of all. And so really like realizing like this happened 10 years ago and yet I'm still feeling like some type of emotional charge over this type of truck. And instead of being like, well, I need to get rid of this idea of the black truck, really the idea is to just become observant of it and realize our bodies are trying to process these emotions. And usually like our bodies are naturally wanting to release the trauma or release the negative energy. But at the same time, we come in and we try to stop feeling that way. So if we're trying to stop from being, negative or anxious or sad or depressed, all these emotions start to bubble up when we see that black truck. But when we kind of just settle in and allow ourselves to observe from that back seat and kind of notice those thoughts, we notice that we saw the black truck and it heightened the emotion. And to really feel into that emotion and allow the emotion. Notice I say emotion. So if you're feeling anxious because you saw that black truck, you start to feel your heart palpitating a little bit. Maybe your jaw starts to kind of tense up a little bit. Maybe you're not very present compared, to what somebody else is saying. You can become aware of this. The mind is the place where it starts to get a little bit tricky. We want to kind of go in and analyze about like, oh, why do we still feel this way? Or I wonder how he's doing. I hope that he didn't cheat on the next girl, or all these magnitude of thoughts will come up. But if you can just learn to pay attention and to feel into that, those thoughts are just our ego trying to take us away from the present moment. When we learn to step back and just observe our emotions and those thoughts, things are going to start to come up and it might feel icky for a minute, but if you don't hold on to the thoughts, it typically wants to pass. If I have a pencil in my hand and I want to release it, all I have to do is let it go. But when we have our emotions involved with everything, we start to think about, well, I don't want to let it go because I'm emotionally attached to this pencil, and my grandpa gave it to me and my grandpa died. And we come up with all these stories in our head of why we can't let go. But in actual reality, if we just open our fingers, we let it go. So much like this pencil, our emotions can fall away the same exact way. It will take some practice. And so it's really good to start implementing with the smaller things. I notice even throughout my day, as I get into the flow of things, my anxiety slowly builds up throughout the day. And what I like to do is just practice relaxing into it. I mean, anything can trigger us. And I'm not claiming to be some enlightened spiritual guru. I get heightened all the time as I get in my work. But it's when I notice that I'm getting like that, it's just take a deep breath, take it back a notch and let that little emotion go. Let it go of that expectation of I need to get X, Y, and Z done, and let my body get into the flow. And I'll start to realize oh, everything works out and I didn't need to stress out and hyper focus like that. If you practice this when you're having lighter emotions, when you have light anxiety, when the day is just starting and you got to get out the door, you're going to be amazed when you apply this to the larger things. As you start to relax, you're training your body and literally wiring it into your brain. And so when the big things come up, it's that much easier to actually handle it in a much more calm and effective manner. Today, I did my normal morning routine and I was totally zen and centered. I did my yoga, prayer, meditation. I had a good breakfast with my daughter. And then I get a text from my ex and he wants to change our schedule. And I start getting all crazy inside. Before, he didn't even say anything bad. He just wanted to get one extra day with her, which is understandable. But I got super defensive. I wanted to text him back and just be like, you can't take another day. And then I had anxiety because of all the past. We have had some drama in the past. We're good today, but there has been times where if somebody asked for more time with our daughter, it turns into a fight or all this. So all this emotion starts to bottle up within me. And I learned it was really a battle. See, when it's something simple, like noticing that, I got to get ready for work real quick, it's a little bit easier to kind of notice it and kind of let it go. But when it comes to these bigger things of that threat of losing time with my daughter, I started to get really anxious. And so, yes, there was this battle of the observer. And then my ego wanted to come in and say, well, you need to let him know that this isn't going to work for our schedule. And then I kept going into the observer and kept going into the observer. No matter how much my brain wanted to go everywhere else, I stayed in the observer the best I could. And I started to pay attention to the emotions and the feeling inside my body. Yoga teaches this all the time. It's not about twisting ourselves into these pretzels in yoga. It's really about feeling and experiencing it. We're here on this planet Earth to experience the emotions. And so when we allow ourselves to feel into it, it's amazing what happens. My ex ends up calling me once I started to really calm down. I didn't message him at all. I just said, hey, do you think we could find a schedule that will be a good compromise? I was able to get away with that instead of texting some horrible things. And so he eventually ends up calling me. And at this point, my emotion has really died down. I already started working on other things. I was present with that. And we had such a great conversation that came to a resolution where we were able to alternate. So I still got my good time with my daughter and he still gets good time with his daughter, so it just really worked out beautifully. But if I had snapped and if I had tried to run and not be aware of what was going on, that's when drama starts. And then we have to work through so much more in the end. What I believe in that situation is, had I have gotten heated and all angry, yelling at my ex or whatever else, that the situation would have ended up so much worse. And it's not even because of the physical things that I would say or do, but because of the energy that I was sending out. If I send out hate, he's going to understand and feel that hate. And so therefore, he's going to respond in defense to that hate. But when I start to really focus in on myself and take responsibility for these emotions, and I start to feel through it, I kind of work myself out, let the phone go for a little bit, and then come back to it. I truly believe that in a sense, that was manifesting a better result compared to just trying to let my ego win the war. If you're trying to call something into your life, if you're trying to manifest the new job, a new husband, a family, good friendships, relationships, it's really easy to get lost in the future of what we want and to always continually think about it and obsess on that. And what we forget is what energy we put out always comes back to us. So if we're always obsessed about how it's going to be different in the future, then we're always going to be happy in the future. When we have to realize that if we think that that projected result is what's going to bring us happiness, then we have to embody that happiness now. I know for me, when I am going to manifest something, I'm like, I'm going to do this, and I'm no matter what, I'm going to feel elevated emotions. What I forget, and I think a lot of people forget, is that the abundance is here already. So it's not a matter of having to fight and control to get what we want, but rather a way of like relaxing and releasing into it and observing our ego and really releasing and relaxing into it. How manifestation works is we send out our intention and we call it into us, but we have to be in that state of receival. So if we're trying to grip and control by working our external world and forcing it like that, then it's going to be really hard to maintain in the first place. But when we learn to relax and trust the universe and know that what is meant to be is coming to you anyways, it might not be the way that you expect, but typically it's 10 times better than what you expect. So just remember that, because I know we can put expectations on ourselves when we're trying to call something into our life, but to, just relax into it and realize that the abundance is within you, and any of that tension or fear, it's all our ego. Our ego is playing tricks on us. So if we learn to kind of become aware, we won't be free of our ego, but we will be able to know how to maneuver it a lot easier and come back to a higher vibrational state really quick. So to wrap it up, get into that observer. Really pay attention to every day-to-day life. This is something that you can implement in your daily life. It's not something that needs to wait and you need to set aside time. It's something that you can start right now as you're watching this video. As you start to observe, you'll start to really notice these expectations that you might put on yourself of how you need to be or act, or expectations of how other people need to be or act. And when we realize that the happiness is right here, we learn to relax into it. And as you start to get more consistent with this, it's not something that you're going to be able to do perfectly, but over time it can develop into a really strong muscle. If this resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe. And also, if there's something that you want to hear about, comment down below and let me know. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in one of my next videos. Bye.